Thank you everyone for coming. I'm glad that people have turned up. So this is a Scouts and Guides own. So one of the guide laws is a guide respects all living things and takes care of the world around her. So although there's not an equivalent law for Scouts, I believe this guide law applies to both organisations, as there is only one planet Earth. So it is important that we do all that we can to care for it. So there's a famous saying, which is take only photos, leave only footprints, kill only time, which we should try to consider in our daily activities. So the Earth is approximately 4.5 billion years old, and modern humans have only been on the planet for the past 200,000 years of that. Recent civilization started about 6,000 years ago, and industrialization about 250 years ago. So an easier way of imagining this timescale would be that the Earth is 46 years old, humans have been on the planet for the past 4 hours, and the Industrial Revolution began just 1 minute ago. And in that time, we have destroyed 50% of the world's forests. So the past year has been very tough for all humans, although it has had many surprising benefits on the environment, but the environment is still struggling. So a new term, called the anthropause, has been used to describe the global reduction in human travel activity and the temporary slowdown which has taken place over the past year. However, the anthropause has been experienced unevenly by different groups of animals and people, as due to inequalities, not everyone has had the ability to pause during this time. And also in some places, the lack of human activity and the absence of ecotourism has worsened problems such as poaching. However, the pandemic has also led to environmental benefits, such as a drop in smog and air pollution. So during moments of life-changing disruptions, as we have experienced over the past year, it can be difficult to see the positives in life. However, many of us have had a greater opportunity to spend more time outside with nature than we normally would have. Previously, we would have all been sat in lecture theatres or working in offices or commuting on public transport. But with our daily exercise, many of us have taken the chance to really explore our local area and have grown to appreciate the green spaces that we have near our homes. So I've got a poem to read, which talks about that. So the poem is called Anthropause. So it says, I think I'll miss the birdsong most, the way that even suburbia has returned to the hands of nature. I respect a few chattering chaffinches are hardly the fish swimming in Venice canals, that their song has made this prison paradise. I don't want to lose nature's music to the noxious groan of motor cars, like road-bound radio static, and to the grey skies that seem to haunt the daily to and fro of the thankless commute to the grave. This is not to say that I won't find some of the things a welcome relief, if and when normality returns. Recently, my poems have been filled with empty streets and imaginary conversations stifled of the reality we left long behind. Observation is starved by the same four walls. All my sonnets yearn for an absent lover, and my verses forbidden its cast of family, friends, and the odd folk at bus stops, and the poems I do write are reruns of old. Based on memories that fade like walking dreams, I worry what else I have forgotten. Hugs, smiles, handshakes, about that long-lost world beyond the garden wall. We are promised normality can return, just as nature is reclaiming our undisturbed streets. And for this my heart is hopeful, yet I also feel fear. Where will the fish go? when cruise ships once more disturb Venice waters? Did we promise those fish long ago that Venice was but a departure from normality and that things would one day return to the way they had always known it? Will the bird song disappear because we'll no longer tend our gardens or because we'll no longer be around to hear it? Will we finally rejoice at being able to see our lovers and our family and our friends, only to realize we don't have the time? In all this clamoring for a return to normality, have we stopped to consider what we actually left behind? In a world frozen still, we are afforded a glance to slow down and see how things have always been. In a world frozen still, we are afforded a chance to question all our futures, to think big and dream. We lament the new normal thrust upon us like we don't have a choice. But what is stopping a new normal informed by your voice? Let us sing aloud our hopes for a better world, like we stand on our streets and fill the skies with applause, so that our dreams can fly alongside the birds and the song of their cause. So that's the end of the poem. So there have been stories from the past year of animals coming into towns and other locations that they're not normally found in due to a lack of human activity. So, for example, in Llandudno in Wales, a group of Kashmiri goats started to visit the town to graze in people's front gardens, which was a remarkable sight for the people who lived there. And there was also a story about sheep playing in a children's playground in Monmouthshire. So people see these animals as encroaching onto our space. However, much of this space never really belonged to us. So since the Industrial Revolution, humans have been rapidly taking over much of nature's wild habitats, for example, through deforestation. However, this temporary check on usual human activity has allowed other forms of life to flourish. We're all very excited for life to return to what we considered to be normal prior to this time last year. However, it is important to remember to consider the environment when returning to these activities. So, as I'm sure many of you are aware, when wearing face masks, it is better for the environment to use reusable masks rather than disposable ones. However, if you do prefer to use disposable masks, it's good to make sure that you dispose of them correctly. So many wildlife charities have been recommending that you cut the straps, which go behind the ears before binning them, as just in case they end up in an environment like the oceans, this stops the risks of animals becoming caught in the straps. And many of the benefits that the environment has experienced over the past year is likely to be temporary, as of course we all want to get out there and go travelling again. So although we all want to get back to normal life as soon as possible, hopefully this past year has shown that there are small changes that we can make in our day-to-day lives, which will benefit the environment, even if it doesn't seem like it at the time. So for example, many of us already have made changes such as taking a refillable bottle of water with you when you go out for the day instead of buying a disposable bottle, and taking reusable bags when you go shopping instead of buying a carrier bag. So to finish with, I want to read you a story about a man and some starfish. So it is, there was a man who lived along the ocean. Early one morning, he decided to take a walk along the beach. It was a foggy morning, and the first rays of the sun were slipping above the horizon. The man enjoyed the walk. It was as if the beach belonged to him. He glanced down on the beach and saw a figure that seemed to be dancing. He wondered why anyone would be on the beach so early. His curiosity caused him to quicken his pace. As he drew nearer, he realized that the figure was that of a young man, and he wasn't dancing. He was throwing something back into the water. As he drew closer, he realised that the young man was picking starfish off the beach and was tossing them back into the water. He was puzzled. "Why are you throwing starfish into the water?" he asked. "The tide is going out, the sun is rising, and the starfish that are left on the beach will surely die," said the young man, continuing on his task. "But that's such a waste of time and energy," exclaimed the onlooker. "There are so many starfish, and there are miles and miles of beach. What difference does it make?" The young man thought for a moment. He reached down to pick up a starfish and said, "It makes a difference to this one." And this tale is a good one to reflect on, as it shows that as small as our actions may seem, they are making a difference to someone. And just because we can't fix the world on our own, if everyone threw back a starfish, that would be many, many starfish returned to the ocean, which would have otherwise been left on the beach. That's the end. Over to you, Tom.
Thank you, Lexie.
I hope that was
If
okay.
everyone else wants to, I can see people clapping, but you're all on mute.
Thanks.